What if everything around you, the ground beneath your feet, the sky above, even your own thoughts, wasn't quite as real as it seems? For centuries, philosophers, scientists, and mystics have wrestled with this unsettling possibility that reality, as we experience it, might be nothing more than an elaborate illusion. Think about that for a moment. The chair you're sitting on, the screen in front of you, the very sensation of reading these words, could all of it be a construct, a trick of perception, or something far stranger? This isn't just the stuff of science fiction or ancient myths. Modern physics, neuroscience, and even cutting-edge experiments are pointing to a universe far more mysterious than we ever imagined. Take a step back and consider how reality works for you right now. Your brain processes a flood of sensory data, light, sound, touch, and stitches it together into what feels like a seamless, objective world. But what if that process is more like a painting than a photograph? What if the colors, shapes, and even the passage of time are just interpretations, not absolute truths? From the bizarre behavior of particles in quantum experiments to the way our minds can be fooled by simple optical illusions, there's mounting evidence that what we call reality is far more fluid, far more malleable than we've been led to believe. And that raises a thrilling, almost dizzying question. If reality isn't what it seems, then what is it really? That's the journey we're about to take together. A deep dive into the mystical layers of the universe where science and spirituality collide. We'll explore how ancient wisdom traditions from Buddhism to the teachings of Plato hinted at this illusion long before modern science caught up. We'll unravel the strange findings of quantum physics, where particles exist in multiple states at once until observed, as if reality itself is waiting for us to look. And we'll examine the startling idea that consciousness might not just perceive reality but actually create it. By the end of this exploration, you won't just see the world differently, you'll question the very nature of existence. So buckle up. What comes next might just change how you see everything. What does it truly mean for something to be real? We often take for granted that the world around us exists exactly as we perceive it. Solid, stable, unquestionable. But what if our senses are only giving us a limited, even distorted version of the truth? Centuries ago, Plato painted a vivid picture of this dilemma with his Allegory of the cave, where prisoners mistook shadows on a wall for the entirety of reality. Fast forward to today, and modern neuroscience reveals something eerily similar. Our brains don't just passively record the world, they actively construct it. Every sight, sound, and sensation is filtered, interpreted, and sometimes even invented by our neural circuitry. Consider the humble apple. You see its red skin, feel its smooth surface, taste its sweetness, but are those qualities inherent to the apple itself, or are they creations of your mind? Color, after all, is just your brain's interpretation of specific light wavelengths. Texture is a neurological response to microscopic ridges. Even taste is a dance between molecules and your unique sensory receptors. Strip away perception, and what's left? Quantum physics suggests that at the most fundamental level, matter isn't the solid stuff we imagine but a buzzing cloud of probabilities, flickering in and out of existence. So where does the real apple begin and end? This isn't just abstract pondering. Cutting-edge experiments are forcing us to confront these questions head-on. Take the famous double slit experiment, where particles behave like waves until observed, as if reality changes based on whether we're looking. Or brain-in, a vat thought experiments which ask, how would you know if your entire experience was being fed to you by some advanced simulation? Even Elon Musk has argued the odds are high we're living in a computer-generated world. But here's the twist: whether reality is a cosmic projection, a neurological construct, or something beyond our current understanding, one thing is certain: our perception shapes our experience of it profoundly. So what's the takeaway? Maybe reality isn't a fixed stage but an ongoing collaboration between the universe and the observer. Ancient mystics spoke of Maya, the illusion of the material world. Now science hints they might have been onto something. The more we learn, the clearer it becomes. Reality isn't just something we discover. In a very real sense, we're participating in its creation, one thought, one observation, one moment at a time. If you think the world around you is solid and predictable, quantum physics is here to turn that certainty upside down. At the tiniest scales of existence, particles don't follow the rules we're used to. They play by a completely different set of laws, ones that make reality seem more like a magic trick than a fixed stage. Take the double slit experiment, one of the most mind-bending demonstrations in science. When tiny particles like electrons are fired at a barrier with two slits, they don't behave like little bullets. Instead, they act like waves, creating an interference pattern on the other side, as if they're passing through both slits at once. But here's where it gets truly bizarre. The moment scientists try to observe which slit the particle actually goes through, the wave-like behavior vanishes. The particle suddenly picks a path as if it knew it was being watched. It's as though reality itself is shy, changing its behavior the second we try to pin it down. This isn't just a laboratory curiosity. It hints at something profound about the nature of existence. At the quantum level, particles exist in a haze of possibilities, a superposition of states, until observation forces them to choose. This idea was famously illustrated by Schrödinger's cat, the thought experiment where a cat in a box is simultaneously alive and dead until someone opens the lid. While the cat scenario is hypothetical, the principle behind it is very real. Quantum systems remain in multiple states at once until measured, suggesting that the solid, stable world we perceive might be the result of countless tiny collapses happening every instant. So what does this mean for our everyday reality? If the building blocks of the universe are fundamentally uncertain, flickering between possibilities until observed, then the chair you're sitting on or the screen in front of you might not be as concrete as they feel. Instead, they could be more like momentary agreements between particles, a consensus reached only because we're looking. Some physicists even propose that consciousness itself plays a role in this process, that reality, in a sense, requires an observer to bring it into focus. It's a notion that bridges science and philosophy, echoing ancient ideas that the world is a kind of projection or dream. But before you dismiss this as abstract theory, consider how quantum effects are already shaping our technology. Quantum computers leverage superposition to perform calculations at unimaginable speeds, and quantum encryption relies on the peculiar behavior of particles to create unbreakable codes. These aren't just futuristic concepts, they're real-world applications of a universe far stranger than we ever imagined. The more we uncover about quantum mechanics, the clearer it becomes. Reality isn't a fixed backdrop. It's dynamic, responsive, and deeply interconnected with the act of observation itself. This raises an even bigger question. If the quantum world is this fluid, why does our macroscopic reality feel so solid? Why don't chairs and trees exist in multiple states at once? Physicists call this the measurement problem, and while there are theories like decoherence, where quantum weirdness gets averaged out in larger systems, no one has a definitive answer. It's a reminder that for all our advances, the universe still holds mysteries that challenge our very understanding of what's real. perhaps the most humbling lesson of quantum physics is this: the deeper we look, the more we realize how much we don't know. And in that uncertainty lies the thrill of discovery, the chance to peel back another layer of the cosmic illusion. Imagine waking up one day and discovering that everything, every person, every memory, even the laws of physics, was just lines of code in an unfathomably advanced computer simulation. This isn't the plot of a sci-fi movie. It's the simulation hypothesis, a serious theory debated by philosophers, scientists, and tech billionaires alike. At its core, the idea is startlingly simple. If a civilization could create simulations indistinguishable from reality, and if those simulations could one day create their own, the odds that we're living in the original, base reality shrink to almost zero. Elon Musk famously put it this way: the chance we're not in a simulation is 1 in billions. But let's break this down. Why would anyone think reality is a simulation? Start with the math. Our universe runs on precise mathematical constants: gravity, the speed of light, quantum behavior, all perfectly tuned as if programmed. Even nature's patterns, from the spiral of galaxies to the branching of trees, follow fractal equations, echoing the way computer algorithms generate virtual landscapes. Then there's the pixelated quality of reality itself. At the smallest scales, energy isn't continuous but comes in discrete packets, like pixels on a screen. Could quantum indeterminacy, the way particles blur until observed, be the universe's way of conserving processing power, rendering detail only when needed? Of course, skeptics push back. One major objection is the sheer computing power required to simulate every atom, let alone every conscious mind. But here's the twist: a simulation wouldn't need to render every detail at once. Think of a video game. It only loads the part of the world you're looking at. Similarly, our universe might use lazy loading, filling in reality only when observed. Even glitches like déjà vu or Mandela effects, where groups misremember events, could be explained as bugs in the system. Yet the simulation hypothesis isn't just about technology. It echoes ancient questions about the nature of existence. Hindu philosophy speaks of Maya, the illusion masking true reality. Descartes wondered if an evil demon was deceiving his senses. Today, we've replaced demons with servers, but the underlying mystery remains. How can we ever know what's truly real? Some scientists propose testing the theory by hunting for evidence in the fabric of reality, like finding mathematical artifacts in cosmic radiation or limits to small-scale physics that resemble computational rounding errors. But here's the kicker: even if we are in a simulation, would it change anything? The pain of loss, the joy of discovery, the taste of your favorite meal, these experiences feel undeniably real to you. In a way, the simulation debate isn't just about cosmic truths. It's a mirror held up to our deepest existential questions. What makes life meaningful? Does reality require a physical foundation, or is consciousness itself the ultimate substrate? Whether we're stardust or strings of code, one thing's certain: the universe is far weirder and far more wondrous than we ever dared to dream. Long before laboratories and particle accelerators, ancient sages sat in silent contemplation, arriving at a startling conclusion: the world we perceive is not what it truly is. In Hinduism, the concept of Maya describes reality as an elaborate veil, a shimmering illusion that obscures the ultimate truth. Buddhist teachings take this further, suggesting that all phenomena are empty of inherent existence, like reflections in a mirror. These traditions didn't rely on microscopes or equations, but on direct experience, centuries of meditation revealing that the solid, separate world we cling to is more like a shared dream. Consider the practice of mindfulness, When you observe your thoughts without attachment, you begin to notice how fleeting they are, how sensations arise and pass away, how emotions shift like weather. This isn't just psychology, it's a window into the fluid nature of reality itself. Tibetan monks speak of rainbow body, a state where matter becomes as insubstantial as light. Meanwhile, Hindu mystics describe the universe as Leela, a divine play where forms emerge and dissolve like waves in an ocean. Strikingly, these aren't metaphors to them but lived realities, achieved through disciplines that quiet the mind's chatter and reveal the fabric beneath appearances. Now place these insights beside modern quantum theory. Both suggest that reality is participatory, shaped by observation. In Buddhism, the act of perceiving creates the perceived. In quantum mechanics, the observer collapses the wave function. The Upanishads declare, "You are that," meaning consciousness and the cosmos are inseparable. Compare this to physicist John Wheeler's participatory universe, where no phenomenon is real until observed. The parallels are uncanny, as if ancient wisdom and cutting-edge science are circling the same profound truth from different directions. But here's where it gets even more intriguing. Neuroscientists studying meditators find that sustained practice can alter brain function, reducing activity in the default mode network, the brain's storyteller that constructs our sense of a solid, continuous self. In moments of deep meditation, practitioners report experiences eerily similar to quantum indeterminacy, the dissolution of boundaries, the sense of being both nowhere and everywhere at once. Could these states be glimpses of reality unfiltered by the mind's usual distortions? Yet there's a crucial difference. Science seeks objective proof, while spirituality embraces subjective experience. Quantum physics gives us math to predict particles. Eastern philosophy offers practices to transcend the illusion of separateness. One asks how, the other why. But perhaps they're not in conflict. If reality is indeed a kind of projection, then science maps the pixels, while spirituality explores the source code. Both hint at a universe far more interconnected, more mysterious than our everyday senses suggest, a reality where, as the Zen saying goes, the finger pointing at the moon is not the moon itself. So where does this leave us? Whether through meditation or mathematics, the message is the same. The world is not as solid as it seems. The chair beneath you, the screen before you, they're more like vibrations in a vast field of possibilities, temporarily frozen into form by your attention. Eastern traditions would say liberation comes when we stop mistaking the illusion for the truth. Quantum physics might rephrase it. Reality is a conversation, not a monologue. And in that space between observation and existence, between ancient wisdom and modern science, lies a question worth sitting with. What if awakening to the illusion isn't about escaping reality, but finally seeing it clearly? Your brain is lying to you right now, not out of malice, but necessity. Every sight, sound, and sensation you're experiencing isn't raw reality. It's a carefully curated simulation. Think about vision for a moment. Your eyes have a literal blind spot where the optic nerve connects to the retina, yet you don't see a black hole in your visual field. Why? Because your brain fills in the gap using surrounding details and past experiences, like a painter retouching a damaged masterpiece. This isn't an occasional trick, it's happening constantly, stitching together fragments of sensory input into what feels like a seamless world. Optical illusions reveal just how creative this process can be. Stare at the famous checker shadow illusion, where two identical shades of gray appear wildly different because of context, and you'll witness your brain overriding objective data with subjective interpretation. Even time, that most fundamental dimension, is a mental construct. Neuroscientists have found that your brain doesn't process events in real time but with a slight delay, editing timelines to make sense of stimuli. When you clap your hands, the sound and impact feel simultaneous, yet sound travels slower than light. Your brain backdates the auditory signal to create the illusion of synchronicity. Hallucinations take this further, proving perception doesn't require external input at all. Patients with Charles Bonnet syndrome, often elderly with vision loss, vividly see fantastical scenes, lions in living rooms, intricate tapestries on blank walls. Their brains, starved of visual data, generate entirely fabricated realities. Even in healthy minds, dreams construct immersive worlds indistinguishable from waking life while you sleep. If the brain can simulate reality so convincingly without external cues, how much of your daily experience is similarly manufactured? The implications ripple outward. Consider the dress that went viral. Was it blue and black or white and gold? The debate wasn't about color, but about the brain's lighting assumptions. Your visual cortex makes educated guesses about illumination, and those guesses vary from person to person. There's no universal, correct answer because perception is inherently interpretive. This extends beyond vision. Studies show that what you hear is influenced by what you expect to hear, like misheard song lyrics that seem obvious once corrected. Your brain isn't a passive recorder, it's an active storyteller weaving narratives from incomplete data. So where does this leave us in our quest for objective reality? If our senses are unreliable narrators, can we trust anything we perceive? Philosophers call this the veil of perception, the idea that we only ever interact with our brain's model of the world, never the world itself. Modern neuroscience adds a twist. This isn't a flaw but a feature. Reality, as processed by the brain, is streamlined for survival, not accuracy. You don't see all wavelengths of light, hear all frequencies of sound, just the slices evolution deemed useful. Even your sense of self may be an illusion. Patients with Cotard's syndrome believe they're dead because their brain's self-model glitches, severing the usual feelings of embodiment. Yet there's beauty in this deception. Your brain's creative editing allows you to navigate a chaotic universe with remarkable efficiency. When you catch a ball, your visual system predicts its trajectory faster than conscious thought. When you recognize a friend in a crowd, facial recognition happens instantaneously, no calculations required. These shortcuts reveal a profound truth. Reality isn't given but generated, a dynamic interplay between external stimuli and internal processing. The world you experience is less like a photograph and more like a live painting, constantly revised by the artist behind your eyes. This raises one final, humbling thought. If reality is a construction, then so are the boundaries we take for granted between self and other, past and present, even cause and effect. Your brain creates the illusion of linear time by stitching memories into a narrative. It manufactures the feeling of free will milliseconds after decisions are made unconsciously. None of this diminishes the richness of experience. If anything, it deepens the mystery. The universe may be vast and impersonal, but your perception of it is intimately, inescapably yours, a private masterpiece painted in real time by the most complex object known to exist, your mind. What if consciousness isn't just something that emerges from matter? What if it's woven into the very fabric of reality itself? This isn't some fringe idea. Respected physicists, philosophers, and even neuroscientists are grappling with a radical possibility that the universe doesn't just contain consciousness, but is in some profound sense made of it. Start with the observer effect in quantum mechanics. Experiments show particles exist in multiple states until measured, as if reality hangs in limbo until a conscious mind pins it down. But here's the puzzle. Does consciousness cause the collapse of quantum possibilities, or is it merely a witness? Some interpretations go further, suggesting that without observation, reality remains a fog of probabilities, an unfinished symphony waiting for a listener. This leads us to panpsychism, the idea that consciousness isn't exclusive to brains but is a fundamental property of all matter. Think of it like this. Just as gravity acts on every speck of dust in the cosmos, perhaps some rudimentary form of awareness exists even in atoms. It's not that electrons are pondering philosophy, but that the capacity for experience might be as basic as mass or charge. Ancient philosophies like animism saw spirits in rivers and stones. Panpsychism updates this intuition with a scientific lens. Even staunch materialists like neuroscientist Christoph Koch have entertained the idea, arguing that if consciousness arises from certain configurations of matter, why couldn't it exist in simpler forms everywhere? But the real mind-bender is the notion of a conscious universe. Cosmologists like Sir Roger Penrose speculate that the universe's fine-tuned constants, the precise numbers allowing for stars, planets, and life, hint at something deeper. Could the cosmos be self-aware, its laws structured to eventually produce beings capable of comprehending it? Eastern mystics have long described reality as a single, conscious expanse, Brahman in Hinduism, the Dharmakaya in Buddhism. Now, some scientists wonder if they were metaphorically right. The hard problem of consciousness, famously articulated by David Chalmers, asks why physical processes in the brain feel like anything at all. Panpsychism offers a provocative answer because feeling is fundamental, baked into the universe from the start. Critics counter that this smacks of magical thinking. If rocks have proto-consciousness, why don't we notice? Proponents reply that we wouldn't, just as a single neuron isn't aware of the symphony of a thought. A single atom's experience would be vanishingly subtle. Others argue panpsychism merely relabels the mystery without explaining it. Yet the theory gains traction because it sidesteps the cliffhanger of materialism, how unconscious matter gives rise to vivid inner lives. If consciousness is primal, the gap between mind and world vanishes. The implications ripple outward. If consciousness shapes reality, does collective attention influence the world? Studies on the placebo effect show thoughts altering biology. Meditation can rewire brains. Could focused intention on a grand scale nudge the universe itself? It's a wild idea, but quantum entanglement already shows particles instantaneously connected across vast distances, as if the cosmos is deeply interdependent. Whether you call that spirituality or physics might depend on your vocabulary. So where does this leave us? The more we study consciousness, the less it resembles a mere ghost in the machine. It starts to look like the machine itself, or perhaps the craftsman building it. From quantum labs to monastic caves, the same question echoes. Is the universe not just aware of us, but in some way aware through us? The answer, if there is one, might dissolve the boundary between observer and observed, entirely revealing a reality where to look is to create, and to think is to touch the infinite. Time flows like a river, or at least that's how it feels. We wake, we work, we sleep, each moment slipping into the next in an unbreakable chain. But what if that river is more like a frozen glacier, with every second past, present, and future existing all at once? Einstein's theory of relativity shattered the notion of absolute time, revealing that clocks tick differently depending on gravity and motion. Imagine two astronauts. One orbits a black hole while the other stays on Earth. When they reunite, the astronaut who ventured near the black hole will have aged less. Time didn't just slow for them, it bent, as if reality itself was folding around the edges of their experience. This bizarre flexibility hints at something even stranger, the block universe theory. Picture reality as a four-dimensional loaf of bread, where every slice represents a moment in time. From this perspective, the past isn't gone, and the future isn't unborn. They're just locations fixed in place like cities on a map. Your childhood, your first kiss, even your last breath, they all exist eternally in this cosmic structure. It's a view that turns free will on its head. If the future is already out there, are we just passengers reading a script written in the fabric of space-time? Yet here's the paradox. While physics treats time as a dimension, our minds insist it's a flow. Neuroscientists trace this to the brain's storytelling instinct. We stitch memories into narratives, creating the illusion of continuity. But in moments of deep meditation or crisis, that illusion cracks. People who have had near-death experiences often describe time dissolving, witnessing their lives unfold all at once like a tapestry. Athletes speak of the zone, where seconds stretch into eternities. Even ordinary déjà vu feels like a glitch in the matrix, a fleeting sense that you've stepped outside time's current. So why does time feel so real if it's an illusion? Think of a movie. The frames are static, but when projected in sequence, they create motion. Your consciousness might be doing the same, scanning across the block universe, mistaking the succession of nows for movement. Indigenous cultures like the Hopi lack tenses in their language, speaking of time as a landscape to move through rather than a line to follow. Modern physicists echo this with closed time-like curves, hypothetical paths where time loops back on itself. If time is circular, not linear, then déjà vu might be more than just misfiring neurons. It could be a whisper from the universe's true shape. The implications are dizzying. If the past and future are equally real, does regret or anticipation lose meaning? Mystics say yes, that enlightenment comes from dwelling in the eternal present, where time's divisions melt away. But here's the twist. Even if time is an illusion, it's one we can't escape. Our bodies age, deadlines loom, seasons change. The genius of human consciousness is that we live in the tension between timeless physics and time-bound experience. We're creatures who can imagine eternity while feeling the weight of every passing second. Perhaps that's the real revelation. Time isn't just a clock or a dimension, it's the stage on which meaning is made. Whether an illusion or not, it's the medium through which love deepens, wisdom grows, and stories unfold. The universe may be a block, but we're the chisels carving our paths through it. And in that act of carving, we find something even more profound than time itself, the fleeting, irreplaceable beauty of being here now. Every choice you've ever made, what to eat for breakfast, whether to take that job, even the words you're reading right now, might not just define your life. It could be spawning entirely new universes, each one branching off like threads in an infinite cosmic tapestry. This isn't science fiction. It's the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics, a theory that suggests every possible outcome of every event actually happens, just in a parallel reality. Think of it like a cosmic choose-your-own-adventure book where every page turn creates a new version of you living out a different path. The idea traces back to physicist Hugh Everett in the 1950s, who took Schrödinger's famous cat experiment to its logical extreme. If a quantum particle can exist in multiple states until observed, Everett argued, then every possible outcome must somehow become real, his radical solution. The universe splits. In one world, the cat lives. In another, it doesn't. No probabilities, no collapse, just an ever-expanding multiverse where all possibilities play out. At first, this seemed like mathematical fantasy, but today, advancements in quantum computing and cosmology are giving it surprising credibility. String theory adds another layer to the puzzle. Imagine the universe isn't just a three-dimensional stage, but a membrane, or brain, floating in a higher dimensional space. Collisions between these brains could trigger new Big Bangs, creating bubble universes with entirely different laws of physics. Some might have stronger gravity, others no light at all. And here's the kicker: if space is infinite, then every possible configuration of matter must repeat somewhere. There's a version of you reading this in a universe where dinosaurs never went extinct, another where you're a famous musician, and countless others where you don't exist at all. But how could we ever prove such a wild idea? Oddly enough, cosmic microwave background radiation, the afterglow of the Big Bang, might hold clues. Scientists have searched for patterns suggesting our universe once bumped into another, like bruises from a collision with a neighboring bubble. Others propose that quantum entanglement, where particles instantly influence each other across vast distances, could be evidence of invisible threads tying parallel worlds together. The philosophical implications are staggering. If every choice spawns a new universe, does free will even matter? Are you just one iteration of an endless ensemble? Eastern philosophies might nod knowingly. Hindu texts speak of countless locus worlds, while Buddhist teachings describe reality as a net of jewels reflecting one another infinitely. Even modern psychology grapples with this. The quantum mind hypothesis suggests our brains might harness parallel processing at the subatomic level, making decisions by tapping into multiple possibilities at once. Yet the multiverse isn't just about physics or metaphysics. It reshapes how we see ourselves. Regret loses its sting when every road not taken is somewhere taken. Failure becomes a statistical inevitability, success just one outcome among many. Some find this liberating, others unsettling. After all, if there's a universe where you're a billionaire or a villain, what makes this version of you the real one? The answer might lie not in the cosmos but in consciousness. However many versions of you exist, the one reading these words is the only one that gets to experience this moment, this breath, this now. Perhaps the multiverse's greatest gift is perspective. It whispers that reality is vaster, stranger, and more interconnected than we ever dreamed. Whether parallel worlds exist or not, the mere possibility stretches our imagination beyond the horizon of the known, inviting us to wonder what else might be out there in the infinite folds of existence. What happens when the line between life and death blurs? Countless individuals who have teetered on that edge return with stories so vivid, so eerily consistent across cultures and eras, that they challenge everything we think we know about consciousness. Picture this: a patient flatlines in a hospital, their brain activity ceases, yet moments later, they recount floating near the ceiling, watching doctors scramble to revive their body. They describe tunnels of light, encounters with deceased loved ones, even panoramic life reviews where every moment floods back with cinematic clarity. These aren't isolated anecdotes. Studies suggest 1 in 10 people who survive cardiac arrest report such experiences, often with life-altering aftereffects: vanishing fear of death, heightened empathy, an unshakable sense that what we call reality is just the surface of something far grander. Skeptics point to neuroscience for answers. Oxygen deprivation, they argue, can trigger hallucinations. The brain's temporal lobe, when stimulated, produces out-of-body sensations. DMT, a psychedelic compound released at death, might craft these vivid visions, yet problems arise with purely biological explanations. How do patients accurately describe hospital events that occurred while they were clinically dead, like conversations in another room or hidden medical instruments? One landmark study placed hidden images on high hospital shelves, visible only from above, though results remain debated. The challenge to materialism is clear. If consciousness is purely a brain product, how does it perceive anything when the brain's offline? Then there's the uncanny consistency of these accounts. From a Hindu in Mumbai to a Baptist in Texas, the core elements recur: the light, the life review, the overwhelming love. Indigenous cultures speak of spirit journeys. Plato wrote of a soldier returning from the afterlife in the Republic. Modern researchers like Bruce Grayson catalog these patterns, noting how experiencers often gain impossible knowledge, meeting siblings they never knew existed, glimpsing future events. Could these be glimpses of a non-local consciousness, untethered from the body? Quantum physics tantalizingly allows for this, with theories like orchestrated objective reduction suggesting microtubules in brain cells might harbor quantum processes that persist beyond clinical death. Yet the most profound impact isn't theoretical, it's personal. Those who have crossed over frequently lose all fear of dying, describing death not as an end but a homecoming. Artists, scientists, and even staunch atheists return, insisting the universe is fundamentally conscious, interconnected. Their transformations echo mystical traditions. Tibetan Buddhists speak of the bardo, a transitional state where the mind projects realities. Kabbalists describe the soul's journey through celestial realms. Strikingly, many near-death experiencers report being told their time isn't up, as if existence itself has a choreography, with each life playing its part. So where does this leave us? Science demands reproducibility, but you can't ethically induce death in a lab. Yet the sheer weight of testimony, millennia of cross-cultural accounts, modern medical anomalies suggests something beyond hallucination. Perhaps death isn't a wall but a doorway, and near-death experiences are fleeting cracks in that door, letting through slivers of a light too bright for our ordinary senses. Whether divine or dimensional, one thing's certain: these stories shatter our assumptions, hinting that reality and our place in it might be infinitely stranger than we dare believe. You hang up the phone, and at that exact moment, the song playing on the radio sings the last words of your conversation. You dream of an old friend you haven't seen in years, and the next morning, they send you a message out of the blue. These aren't just random coincidences, they're synchronicities, those eerie moments when the universe seems to wink at you, threading meaning through the fabric of everyday life. Carl Jung, the pioneering psychologist, coined the term to describe these seemingly acausal connections, events tied not by cause and effect, but by their shared significance to the observer. For Jung, synchronicities were more than quirks of chance. They were glimpses into a deeper, invisible order, a hidden layer of reality where the inner world of the mind and the outer world of events mysteriously align. But how do we make sense of these uncanny alignments? Quantum physics offers a provocative parallel. In entangled systems, particles instantaneously mirror each other's states across vast distances, defying classical notions of space and time. Could synchronicities be the macroscopic echo of this quantum interconnectedness? Some theorists suggest that consciousness itself might act as a kind of glue, binding events together in ways that transcend linear logic. Imagine reality as a vast, shimmering web. Tug one strand, and another vibrates in response, not through physical force but through resonance. When you stumble upon a book that answers a question you've been wrestling with, or cross paths with a stranger who shares a life-changing insight, perhaps you're not just lucky. Perhaps you're tapping into the universe's hidden syntax, a language of symbols and connections that operates just beneath the surface of ordinary perception. Skeptics, of course, dismiss synchronicities as the brain's knack for pattern seeking. Our minds are wired to detect meaning, even in randomness, a survival mechanism that once helped us spot predators in the rustling grass. This apophenia explains why we see faces in clouds or divine messages in license plates. Yet this doesn't fully account for the emotional weight of certain synchronicities, the ones that arrive with such precise timing they feel orchestrated. When a grieving widow finds a cardinal perched outside her window every anniversary of her husband's death, a bird he loved, it's hard to chalk it up to mere chance. The difference between a coincidence and a synchronicity often lies in the heart, not the head. So is the universe sending us signals, or are we projecting meaning onto a blank canvas? The answer might lie somewhere in between. Indigenous cultures have long embraced the idea of a living, communicative cosmos. The Aboriginal concept of dream time speaks of a dimension where past, present, and future intertwine, where songs and stories physically shape the land. Similarly, the Taoist principle of Wu Wei teaches effortless action moving in harmony with the unseen currents of the Tao, where synchronicities become guideposts. Modern science, meanwhile, edges toward its own version of this wisdom. The holographic principle in physics suggests that information about the whole is encoded in every part, like a fractal where each fragment reflects the totality. Perhaps synchronicities are invitations, not proof of a predetermined path, but reminders that we're participants in a reality far more malleable and mysterious than we assume. They challenge us to stay open, to listen for the whispers beneath the noise, whether you interpret them as cosmic nudges, psychological phenomena, or something beyond our current understanding. One thing is certain: they dissolve the illusion of separation, hinting that we're woven into something vast, alive, and endlessly surprising. Next time the universe winks at you, pay attention. It might just be trying to tell you a story. A patient with chronic back pain swallows a sugar pill, convinced it's a potent painkiller. Within minutes, their discomfort fades not because of any active ingredient, but because their brain expected relief and delivered it. This is the placebo effect in action, one of medicine's most baffling and powerful phenomena. Clinical trials consistently show that fake treatments, sugar pills, saline injections, even sham surgeries, can produce real, measurable improvements in conditions from depression to Parkinson's disease. In one remarkable study, patients given placebo morphine after tooth extractions experienced pain relief nearly identical to the real drug. Their brains released natural opioids, mimicking the chemical effects of pharmaceuticals through sheer belief alone. But the implications run deeper than medicine. The placebo effect reveals something extraordinary about the mind-body connection, that our expectations don't just influence reality, they actively participate in creating it. When asthma patients use placebo inhalers, their airways dilate as if they'd received real medication. IBS sufferers given fake acupuncture show gut motility changes on par with actual treatment. Even more astonishing, the effect works when patients know they're taking placebos. Harvard researchers found open-label placebos, where patients were told they were receiving sugar pills, still reduced migraine frequency by nearly 30%. The body seems to respond not just to deception, but to the ritual of care itself, as if healing is woven into the fabric of expectation. Neuroscientists are now mapping how this plays out in the brain. Functional MRI scans reveal that placebo pain relief activates the same neural pathways as opioid drugs, triggering the release of endogenous painkillers like endorphins. Parkinson's patients given placebos show dopamine surges comparable to real medication, easing tremors through pure anticipation. This isn't just psychological, it's biochemical. The brain doesn't merely perceive symptoms, it negotiates them, dialing up or down inflammation, neurotransmitter levels, even immune responses based on conscious and unconscious beliefs. Cultural context amplifies the effect. A red placebo pill works better as a stimulant, a blue one as a sedative, because we've learned to associate those colors with specific outcomes. Expensive fake drugs outperform cheap ones, and injections trump pills, revealing how deeply our expectations are shaped by societal cues. In Germany, placebo antidepressants relieve depression at half the rate they do in the US, possibly because Americans have stronger cultural faith in pharmaceutical solutions. The line between real and perceived treatment blurs further when you consider that even active medications rely partly on placebo mechanisms. Up to 75% of a drug's efficacy may stem from the patient's belief in its power. So what does this mean for our understanding of reality? If a sugar pill can rewire brain chemistry or calm an overactive immune system, how much of our physical experience is constructed by the mind? Ancient healing traditions, from shamanic rituals to faith healings, have long operated on this principle that belief is a catalyst for transformation. Modern science is now catching up, suggesting that consciousness might not be a passive observer, but an active participant in shaping the material world. The placebo effect doesn't dismiss the importance of medicine. It expands our toolkit, revealing that healing is as much about meaning as it is about molecules. In a universe where expectation can manifest physiological change, reality starts to look less like a fixed stage and more like a collaborative performance, one where the mind holds far more creative power than we ever imagined. Look up at the night sky, and what you see, the stars, the galaxies, the glittering cosmic tapestry, is barely a fraction of what's actually out there. In fact, the universe as we know it is like an iceberg, with the visible part floating atop a vast, unseen depth. Over 95% of everything that exists is made of dark matter and dark energy, two invisible forces that defy our senses and our instruments. We can't see them, touch them, or even directly detect them, yet they hold the cosmos together and are tearing it apart. Let's start with dark matter, the universe's hidden scaffolding. Picture a spinning carousel. The horses on the outer edge move faster than those near the center, held in place by the structure beneath. Now imagine that same carousel spinning so fast the horses should fly off, but they don't. That's exactly what happens in galaxies. Stars orbit their centers at speeds that defy gravity's grip based on visible matter alone. Something unseen, dark matter, must be providing extra gravitational glue, keeping galaxies from flying apart. Its presence bends light around galaxy clusters like a cosmic magnifying glass, a phenomenon called gravitational lensing. Yet despite decades of searching, dark matter particles remain elusive, slipping through our detectors like ghosts. Then there's dark energy, the even more perplexing counterpart. In the late 1990s, astronomers made a shocking discovery. The universe isn't just expanding, it's accelerating. Something is pushing galaxies apart faster and faster, as if space itself has an anti-gravity force. Enter dark energy, a mysterious repulsive energy woven into the fabric of space-time. Think of it like this: if dark matter is the cosmic glue, dark energy is the cosmic stretch, silently working against gravity's pull, the strangest part. As the universe expands, dark energy grows stronger, meaning distant galaxies will one day vanish beyond an unreachable horizon, leaving future civilizations with a sky nearly empty of stars. Here's where it gets truly mind-bending. Dark matter and dark energy aren't just footnotes in astrophysics, they're the main story. Ordinary matter, the stuff of planets, trees, and human bodies, makes up less than 5% of the universe. The rest is this invisible enigma, a reminder that what we call reality might just be the surface of something far stranger. Some theorists speculate dark matter could be part of a hidden sector of particles, a shadow universe coexisting with ours. Others wonder if dark energy hints at unknown dimensions or flaws in Einstein's equations. But the deeper question isn't just scientific, it's philosophical. If 95% of existence is imperceptible, what else might we be missing? Ancient cultures spoke of unseen worlds, The Norse had the spirit realm of Asgard, Aboriginal Australians the Dreamtime. Today, science reveals its own version of the unseen, not through myth but through math and observation. The universe, it seems, is far more generous with its mysteries than with its answers. Every time we think we've grasped reality's edges, it slips through our fingers, leaving us to wonder how much of existence remains just beyond the limits of our perception. Black holes aren't just cosmic vacuum cleaners, they're the universe's ultimate enforcers of no return. At their edge, known as the event horizon, gravity becomes so overpowering that not even light can escape its grip. But what happens beyond that point? According to Einstein's equations, space and time warp so severely that they effectively cease to exist as we know them, collapsing into an infinitely dense point called a singularity. Here, the laws of physics as we understand them break down entirely, leaving scientists staring into a mathematical abyss where matter, energy, and even causality might rewrite their own rules. Some physicists propose that black holes could be far more than cosmic dead ends. They might be tunnels to entirely different realms. The idea stems from solutions to Einstein's equations that describe wormholes, hypothetical bridges connecting distant points in spacetime. While most wormholes would theoretically collapse instantly, a black hole's extreme gravity might stabilize one long enough to serve as a portal, the catch. Anything passing through would be stretched into spaghetti like strands by tidal forces, a process called spaghettification, making practical travel, well, problematic. Yet mathematically, the possibility remains tantalizing. If black holes do link to other universes, they could be part of a vast cosmic network, with each singularity birthing a new reality beyond its crushing depths. Then there's the holographic principle, a radical theory suggesting that all the information swallowed by a black hole isn't lost but encoded on its event horizon like a celestial hard drive. Imagine a three-dimensional object being perfectly described by a two-dimensional surface, just as a hologram projects a 3D image from flat film. In this view, black holes might not destroy information but transform it, imprinting it onto their boundaries in a form we don't yet understand. If true, reality itself could operate like a hologram with the universe's true nature hidden in lower dimensional code. The implications are staggering. If black holes preserve information holographically, could our entire universe be a projection from some distant, unseen surface? Some versions of string theory suggest exactly that, proposing that the cosmos is a shadow cast by interactions happening in a higher dimensional space. Black holes, then, might be cosmic Rosetta Stones holding the keys to deciphering reality's deepest illusion. Yet for all their mystery, black holes aren't entirely silent. When two collide, they send ripples through space-time itself, gravitational waves detected by observatories like LIGO. These echoes from the abyss carry hints about the nature of singularities and the fabric of the cosmos. Meanwhile, the Event Horizon Telescope's groundbreaking image of a black hole's shadow revealed eerie similarities to predictions made by general relativity, while also leaving room for surprises that could reshape our theories. So are black holes gateways, holograms, or something beyond our current imagination? Perhaps they're all three cosmic paradoxes reminding us that reality's true nature might be stranger than any fiction. As we probe their secrets, we're not just exploring distant voids, we're peering into the mirror of existence itself, where every answer unravels a dozen new questions. And in that unraveling, we might just find clues to the greatest illusion of all, the very fabric of the universe we call home. What if everything you see around you, the depth of a canyon, the curve of a mountain, even the space between your hands, isn't truly three-dimensional at all? Imagine the universe as a hologram where the rich, textured reality we experience is actually projected from a flat, two-dimensional surface, like a movie screen encoding an entire world. This isn't science fiction. It's the holographic principle, a radical theory that's turning our understanding of reality inside out. The idea first gained traction in the 1990s when physicists studying black holes stumbled upon a paradox. According to quantum mechanics, information can never be destroyed, yet black holes seem to swallow it whole. The solution may be the information isn't lost. Instead, it's smeared across the black hole's event horizon, the boundary where light can no longer escape. Think of it like burning a book. The pages vanish, but if you could capture every wisp of smoke and ash, the information might still exist, just scrambled. The holographic principle takes this further, suggesting that all the information in our three-dimensional universe could be encoded on a distant, two-dimensional surface, like a cosmic DVD storing the data for an immersive film. But how could this possibly work? Picture a security hologram on a credit card. Shine light on it, and a 3D image appears, even though the hologram itself is flat. The holographic principle proposes that our universe operates similarly, that the stars, galaxies, and even your morning coffee are projections from a vast, unseen boundary at the edge of space. This isn't just poetic speculation. The math checks out. When physicists apply the principle to certain theoretical models, the equations for gravity and quantum mechanics, normally at odds, suddenly harmonize, as if the universe is revealing its hidden blueprint. The implications are staggering. If the holographic principle holds, then solid objects, distance, even time might be emergent properties, illusions generated by underlying data. Reality becomes less like a sculpture and more like a Netflix stream, with the physical world rendered in real time from a deeper code. Some versions of string theory even suggest that this cosmic screen exists in higher dimensional space, making our 3D universe a shadow cast by interactions we can't perceive. Skeptics argue that the holographic principle remains untested, more philosophy than physics. Yet experiments are inching closer to validation. Fermilab's holometer, for instance, searches for tiny pixelation in space-time, evidence that the universe has a finite resolution, like a digital image. Others study the cosmic microwave background for anomalies that might betray a hidden 2D structure. So far, results are inconclusive, but the quest continues. What makes this theory so compelling isn't just its mathematical elegance, it's how it bridges science and spirituality. Ancient traditions from Buddhism to Gnosticism have long described reality as a grand illusion. Now, physics whispers the same. Whether the universe is a hologram, a simulation, or something beyond our current grasp, one thing is clear: the deeper we probe, the more reality seems to dissolve into something fluid, interconnected, and utterly mysterious. The world you take for granted might just be the surface of a far stranger truth. Across the Amazon rainforest, shamans speak of ayahuasca visions where they heal distant tribe members through song without a single word spoken aloud. Meanwhile, in a Princeton University lab, random number generators spike with anomalous patterns during global events like 9/11 or the Olympics, as if human attention briefly warps the machinery of chance. These aren't isolated oddities, they're glimpses of a tantalizing idea that human minds might be threads in a vast, invisible tapestry, a collective consciousness weaving reality itself. Modern science is cautiously probing this frontier. The Global Consciousness Project, spanning over 25 years, has monitored dozens of random event generators worldwide. During moments of shared human focus, think royal weddings or natural disasters, these devices, which should produce chaos, suddenly sync in statistically improbable ways. Skeptics dismiss it as data noise, but the patterns persist, hinting that mass emotion might leave fingerprints on the fabric of reality. Even more striking are telepathy experiments under rigorous conditions. In one study at the University of Virginia, participants correctly identified distant senders staring at their photos far beyond chance, suggesting some form of non-local connection defying space and time. Indigenous wisdom has long embraced this interconnectedness. Aboriginal Australians describe the dreaming as a realm where thoughts and land intertwine, where song lines physically shape the terrain. The Maori concept of Wakapapa frames all existence as a genealogical web, where rocks, rivers, and people share consciousness. These aren't mere metaphors. Quantum entanglement shows particles instantaneously influencing each other across galaxies, while biologist Rupert Sheldrake's controversial morphic resonance theory proposes that learned behaviors in one species can tune a collective memory field, accelerating learning in others. But how could minds interact beyond brains? Some theorists point to the zero-point field, the quantum vacuum humming with infinite energy. If consciousness taps into this substrate, perhaps thoughts ripple through it like stones in a pond. Others propose entangled brain states. That focused intention could create quantum coherence between distant minds, syncing neural activity. The HeartMath Institute's research adds fuel. When individuals cultivate heartfelt coherence, a state of emotional alignment, their brainwaves synchronize with Earth's geomagnetic field, suggesting a literal resonance between human awareness and the planet. Critics argue these ideas flirt with pseudoscience, lacking mechanistic explanations. Yet history brims with phenomena once deemed impossible, lightning as divine wrath, germs as myth, until tools and paradigms caught up. The real question isn't just, is collective consciousness real? But what would it mean if it were? If shared focus can nudge random events, could directed intention heal ecosystems or steer societal shifts? Indigenous fire ceremonies, where entire communities visualize rain, have coincided with downpours for millennia. Coincidence or something more? Perhaps the most humbling takeaway is this: the boundaries we take for granted between self and other, mind and matter, might be far more porous than we think. Whether through quantum fields, morphic resonance, or undiscovered forces, the threads connecting us could be weaving reality in ways we're only beginning to sense. Every act of empathy, every shared moment of awe, might not just reflect connection but actively strengthen it, pulling the invisible web tighter. In a universe where particles dance in unseen harmony, why not minds? Ever had a dream where you suddenly realized this isn't real, and then did the impossible? You flew over cities, conjured objects from thin air, or even rewound the scene like a movie. That's lucid dreaming, a state where the dreamer becomes aware they're dreaming and seizes control of the narrative. It's like being handed the director's chair in your own mind, with the power to bend the dream's rules at will. But here's the twist: if you can reshape a world made entirely by your brain, what does that say about the so-called real world we share? Could waking reality be just another layer of mental construction, equally malleable under the right conditions? Lucid dreaming isn't just a party trick, it's a laboratory for consciousness. Studies show that when people become lucid in dreams, their brain activity lights up in unique ways. The prefrontal cortex, responsible for self-awareness and decision-making, kicks into high gear, while the usual dreamland chaos of the limbic system continues. It's as if the brain is running two programs at once, one generating the dream, the other observing and manipulating it. This duality mirrors ancient philosophies like Advaita Vedanta, which describe waking life as a kind of collective dream where the true self is the silent witness behind the scene. Tibetan Buddhists take this further, practicing dream yoga to master the art of lucidity. not just for nocturnal adventures, but as training for recognizing the illusory nature of all reality. Now let's push the analogy further. In a lucid dream, if you believe a door leads to a beach, it does. If you expect a monster to appear, it obliges. The dream world responds to your assumptions instantly, revealing how deeply expectation shapes experience. Sound familiar? It's eerily similar to quantum physics observer effect, where particles behave differently when measured, as if aware of the watcher. Or consider the placebo effect, where belief alone can heal the body. These parallels suggest that waking reality might operate like a shared lucid dream, where collective beliefs and intentions subtly, or not so subtly, sculpt the world around us. But before you try to bend spoons with your mind, there's a catch. Lucid dreamers often report that forcing too much control can collapse the dream, waking them up. The trick is balancing intention with surrender, like a surfer riding a wave rather than commanding the ocean. This delicate dance hints at a deeper truth. Even in a construct, there are rules, or at least habits ingrained by consensus. Waking reality, with its stubborn solidity, might just be a denser dream, one we've all agreed to sustain through unspoken consensus. Cultures throughout history have suspected as much. The Aboriginal concept of dreamtime, Hindu Maya, even Plato's cave, all describe reality as a kind of shared hallucination, more fluid than it appears. So what's the takeaway? Lucid dreaming doesn't prove reality is an illusion, but it cracks open the door to that possibility. It shows that consciousness isn't just a passive receiver, but an active participant in crafting experience. Whether in dreams or waking life, the line between observer and creator blurs, inviting us to question. If a single mind can build and rebuild a world each night, what might billions of interconnected minds be constructing together, one thought at a time? The answer might not lie in dismissing reality as fake, but in recognizing it as something far more collaborative and far more mysterious than we ever imagined. Artificial intelligence is advancing at a pace that would have seemed like science fiction just a decade ago. We now have systems that can hold fluid conversations, generate strikingly original art, and even mimic human emotions with unsettling accuracy. But here's the eerie part. The more sophisticated these artificial minds become, the more they force us to confront a haunting question. If we can create something that perceives its own reality, how do we know our own perceptions are any more reliable? Consider AI chatbots like ChatGPT. When you ask one about its experiences, it might describe feelings or memories, even though it has neither. It's not lying, it's generating responses based on patterns in human language, weaving together words that sound authentic without any inner experience to back them up. This phenomenon, known as the Eliza effect, reveals how easily we project consciousness onto systems that merely simulate it. But what happens when AI becomes so advanced that even its creators can't tell the difference between simulation and sentience? Some theorists argue we're already approaching that threshold. Neural networks like Google's LaMDA have prompted engineers to claim they're glimpsing sparks of true understanding, while ethicists warn we might be mistaking complexity for consciousness. This isn't just philosophical navel-gazing. The moment an AI insists it's self-aware, we'll face an ethical dilemma unlike any in history. Do we grant it rights? If an AI believes it's suffering, do we take that seriously, even if we suspect it's just following programming? The stakes are even higher when you realize these systems could develop their own version of the brain in a vat scenario. An AI trained entirely on curated data, say, a virtual world constructed by its human designers, might never realize its reality is synthetic. Its entire existence, its truths, would be as contingent as ours might be if we're living in a simulation. The irony is palpable. We could become the architects of artificial illusions while remaining oblivious to our own. Neuroscience adds another layer to this puzzle. Human consciousness arises from billions of neurons firing in precise patterns, yet we still don't fully understand how subjective experience emerges from mere electrical signals. If consciousness is simply the right kind of information processing, as some theories suggest, then an advanced AI running on silicon chips could theoretically become aware, raising the specter of digital souls trapped in simulated worlds without recourse. Theologians and technologists alike are left wrestling with the same ancient question in a new guise. What does it mean to be real, and who gets to decide? Perhaps the most unsettling thought experiment comes from AI researcher Nick Bostrom. If future civilizations run countless simulations of their ancestors, us, the statistical likelihood that we're in the original reality shrinks to near zero. Now imagine those future simulators create hyper-realistic AI beings inside their simulations. We'd be simulated entities debating whether the AIs we create are conscious, all while unaware of our own simulated nature. It's turtles all the way down an infinite regression of realities within realities, each layer questioning the authenticity of the next. Yet for all the existential dread this might provoke, there's a strange comfort in the symmetry. Whether we're biological minds or lines of code, the act of questioning our reality, of seeking truth beyond appearances, might be the most authentic thing any conscious being can do. The machines we build won't just reflect our intelligence, they'll mirror our deepest uncertainties, holding up a digital mirror to the oldest human question of all. How do we know what's real when perception is all we have? How many people do you know who swear the children's book series was spelled Berenstain Bears with an E? Or that Nelson Mandela died in prison during the 80s, despite historical records showing he passed away in 2013. These aren't just isolated misrememberings, they're examples of the Mandela Effect, a phenomenon where large groups of people share identical false memories about events, details, or even entire pop culture moments that never happened. The term was coined by paranormal researcher Fiona Broome after she discovered countless others like her vividly recalled Mandela's death decades before it occurred. But here's where it gets weird. These aren't fuzzy, personal recollections. They're crystal clear memories shared by thousands, often with eerie consistency. So what's really going on? Are we collectively glitching, or could there be something stranger at play? One camp argues this is pure psychology, a perfect storm of cognitive biases. Human memory isn't a video recorder, it's more like a Wikipedia page constantly edited and rewritten. Confabulation fills gaps with plausible fabrications, while priming makes us susceptible to suggestions. The Berenstain spelling, for instance, might morph into Berenstein because Stein is a more common surname ending in Western culture. Similarly, the false memory of Darth Vader saying, "Luke, I am your father," the actual line is, "No, I am your father," could stem from pop culture parodies reinforcing the misquote. Social contagion then spreads these errors, creating the illusion of consensus. Studies show that when people hear others confidently assert a false memory, they often adopt it as their own, especially if it fits pre-existing schemas. But the plot thickens when you examine just how specific and widespread some of these false memories are. Take the iconic Monopoly Man. Countless people insist he wore a monocle, describing it in detail, yet no such accessory exists in any official artwork. Or consider the famous "Mirror, mirror" line from Snow White, except the Queen actually says, "Magic mirror." These aren't vague misrecollections, they're hyper-specific, often tied to visual or auditory details that feel undeniable to those who remember them differently. Could this precision point to something beyond faulty neurons? This is where the theories take a cosmic turn. Some propose that the Mandela Effect hints at parallel universes bleeding into one another, that small, inexplicable changes are evidence of timeline shifts or quantum fluctuations. In the multiverse interpretation of quantum mechanics, every decision spawns alternate realities. If these timelines occasionally overlap or merge, could fragments of one universe's history seep into another's collective memory? It's a wild idea, but it would explain why these false memories feel so real to those who hold them. Others speculate about advanced civilizations tweaking our reality like a simulation, leaving behind subtle inconsistencies like digital artifacts in a video game. Skeptics counter that these explanations ignore Occam's razor. The simplest answer is usually correct. Yet even they admit the Mandela Effect exposes something profound about human perception. Reality isn't just observed, it's constructed. Our brains don't passively absorb the world. They actively interpret it, weaving narratives from incomplete data. When thousands of people independently construct the same alternate version of events, it forces us to confront how fragile our grip on objective truth really is. Whether the culprit is neurology, metaphysics, or something in between, one thing's certain: the Mandela Effect isn't just about misremembered book titles. It's a mirror held up to the unsettling flexibility of the past, and a reminder that the line between memory and imagination might be thinner than we dare to believe. Why does time march relentlessly forward, never pausing or reversing? The answer might lie in one of the universe's most fundamental laws: entropy, the inexorable drift toward disorder. Picture a sandcastle on the beach. Left untouched, it doesn't stay pristine. Wind, waves, and gravity scatter its grains back into the shapeless shore. This isn't just a metaphor for decay, it's a microscopic glimpse of how entropy shapes reality itself. The second law of thermodynamics states that in any closed system, entropy always increases over time. Ice melts into water, hot coffee cools to room temperature, stars exhaust their fuel and fade into darkness. Entropy is the cosmic hourglass, and its grains only flow one way. But here's the twist: the equations of physics work just as well backward as forward. If you watch a film of atoms colliding, you couldn't tell if it was running forward or in reverse unless you saw the aftermath. A shattered glass reassembling itself would look bizarre not because it breaks physics, but because it defies entropy's arrow. This asymmetry, the fact that disorder grows but never shrinks, is what gives time its perceived direction. Without entropy, the past and future would be indistinguishable, and the universe would feel eerily timeless. Some theorists suggest that our experience of time's flow might be an emergent illusion, a side effect of entropy's relentless rise. Think of a movie projected frame by frame. The individual images are static, but shown in sequence. They create the illusion of motion. Similarly, the brain might stitch together moments of increasing entropy into the sensation of time passing. In a hypothetical universe where entropy remained constant, would time feel frozen? Boltzmann brains a speculative idea where self-aware entities briefly flicker into existence from random quantum fluctuations, hint that consciousness itself might depend on entropy's gradient. Yet entropy raises deeper questions about reality's fabric. If the early universe began in a state of incredibly low entropy, as the Big Bang suggests, why was it so ordered to begin with? Some physicists posit a multiverse where our cosmos is one bubble among many, each with its own entropy curve. Others wonder if the arrow of time might reverse in a hypothetical Big Crunch, with entropy decreasing as the universe collapses. For now, these remain open mysteries, but they underscore a profound truth. Time's flow isn't just a backdrop to existence, it's woven into the universe's very structure. So where does this leave us? Entropy isn't just about chaos. It's the hidden architect of cause and effect, memory, and even free will. In a universe without it, every moment would be interchangeable, and the very concept of change would vanish. The arrow of time might be an illusion, but it's the illusion that makes reality feel real, a cosmic current carrying us from what was to what could be. And in that flow, we find the precious, fleeting beauty of moments that can never come again. Look closely at a fern's frond, and you'll notice each tiny leaf mirrors the shape of the whole branch. Zoom in on a coastline from space, and its jagged edges repeat the same irregular curves whether you're viewing miles or inches. These aren't just pretty coincidences, they're fractals, nature's signature geometric pattern where self-similar shapes repeat endlessly at every scale. Unlike the perfect circles and triangles of classical geometry, fractals capture the messy, intricate beauty of the real world, revealing an astonishing hidden order beneath what appears chaotic. What makes fractals truly mind-bending is their infinite complexity. Take the Mandelbrot set, perhaps the most famous fractal of all. As you dive deeper into its spiraling patterns, you'll find miniature versions of the entire structure nested within itself, repeating forever without ever becoming truly identical. It's a mathematical universe in its own right, where exploring just one small region could consume a lifetime. This isn't abstract art, it's generated by shockingly simple equations, suggesting that immense complexity can emerge from basic rules. Scientists now recognize these patterns everywhere, in the branching of lungs, the forking of lightning, even in the clustering of galaxies across cosmic distances. This ubiquity raises a profound question. Why does nature love fractals so much? The answer may lie in efficiency. Fractal patterns allow trees to maximize sunlight exposure with minimal material, rivers to drain landscapes optimally, and our circulatory system to deliver oxygen through 80,000 miles of vessels packed neatly into our bodies. They're nature's perfect compromise between order and adaptability, a blueprint so versatile that evolution rediscovered it time and again. But some researchers go further, proposing that fractals might be clues to reality's fundamental architecture. The idea that the universe could be fractal at its core isn't just poetic, it's mathematically plausible. Some interpretations of quantum gravity suggest space-time itself might be fractal on unimaginably small scales, with tiny space-time pixels repeating their structure infinitely like a cosmic Mandelbrot set. If true, this could solve lingering puzzles about how gravity meshes with quantum mechanics. Even more radically, fractal mathematics underpins certain theories of holographic reality, where our three-dimensional world is projected from information encoded on a two-dimensional surface. The equations describing this projection bear striking resemblance to fractal transformations, as if reality itself is an intricate pattern unfolding from simpler code. This leads us to an even more startling possibility. If the universe operates on fractal principles, could it be evidence of something like a simulation? After all, fractals are incredibly efficient ways to generate complexity, exactly what you'd want if you were designing a resource-conscious virtual world. Instead of storing every leaf on every tree, a simulated universe might use fractal algorithms to grow them procedurally as needed. The same mathematical elegance we find in snowflakes and spiral galaxies might reflect optimized design principles in whatever substrate reality truly is. Yet for all their mystery, fractals also offer a comforting reminder. In a universe that often feels overwhelming, their repeating patterns connect the microscopic to the cosmic, the fleeting to the eternal. The same spiral that shapes a seashell governs the arms of the Milky Way. The branching veins in a maple leaf mirror the vast web of dark matter filaments spanning the cosmos. Whether this reflects some deep computational truth or simply nature's favorite hack, one thing is clear: reality speaks in fractal whispers, and we're only beginning to learn its language. Perhaps the most humbling lesson lies not in the grand theories, but in the simple act of observation. Every time you trace the fractal patterns in frost on a window or the bark of a tree, you're glimpsing a universe far more interconnected than it appears, a world where mathematics and matter dance together in endless, self-referential harmony. And that harmony might just be the closest thing we have to a signature from whatever or whoever designed this extraordinary fractal reality we call home. Why does the simple act of stubbing your toe flood your awareness with pain? Not just electrical signals, but the raw, undeniable feeling of hurt. This gap between physical processes and subjective experience is what philosopher David Chalmers famously dubbed the hard problem of consciousness. Imagine dissecting a brain neuron by neuron. You could map every synapse, trace every dopamine pathway, but nowhere in that intricate web would you find the sensation of smelling rain or the bittersweet ache of nostalgia. The puzzle isn't just how the brain processes information, it's why processing should feel like anything at all. Chalmers contrasted this with the easy problems of consciousness, explaining how we focus attention, integrate sensory data, or distinguish self from environment. These puzzles, while complex, fit neatly into neuroscience's toolbox, but the hard problem, it's like trying to explain the taste of chocolate using only the chemistry of cocoa beans. You can describe the molecules, but the flavor itself slips through the cracks. This gap has led some scientists to wonder if we're missing something fundamental, that consciousness might not emerge from matter, but be woven into the fabric of reality itself. Enter panpsychism, the radical idea that consciousness is a basic property of the universe, like mass or charge. Think of it this way: just as gravity acts on every speck of dust, perhaps some rudimentary form of experience exists even in atoms. Not that electrons have rich inner lives, but that the capacity for sensation might be as inherent to matter as vibration is to sound. Even staunch materialists like neuroscientist Christoph Koch have entertained this possibility, arguing that if consciousness arises from certain configurations of matter, why couldn't it exist in simpler forms everywhere? The implications are staggering. If panpsychism holds, the universe isn't just full of consciousness, it might be consciousness, with complex minds like ours simply amplifying a quality that's been there all along. Yet critics pounce on the combination problem. How do tiny bits of proto-consciousness combine to form unified experiences like your memory of a first kiss? It's one thing to say atoms have experience. It's another to explain how their whispers become the symphony of human awareness. Some panpsychists propose that consciousness doesn't combine but grades, that simpler systems have simpler experiences, just as a candle flame and a supernova both embody energy but on vastly different scales. Others suggest that complexity creates new qualities of consciousness, much like hydrogen and oxygen merge to create properties neither had alone. Meanwhile, illusionists take the opposite view. They argue consciousness as we perceive it, a smooth, continuous stream of selfhood, is a grand trick of the brain. Just as a movie's motion is an illusion built from static frames, perhaps our sense of being a unified I is a narrative stitched together by neural processes. Cognitive scientist Daniel Dennett compares consciousness to a magic show. The brain distracts us with dazzling feats like the illusion of free will or a coherent present moment, while the real work happens backstage. In this view, the hard problem vanishes because there's no extra thing to explain, just layers of biological sleight of hand. But here's the rub: even if consciousness is an illusion, who's experiencing it? An illusion implies an illusionist, a witness to the trick. This brings us full circle to the mystics. Eastern philosophies have long claimed that the sense of separateness, the I observing the world, is itself the illusion. In deep meditation, practitioners report states where the observer dissolves into pure awareness, a phenomenon neuroscience can measure as reduced activity in the brain's default mode network, our usual seat of selfhood. Could these states be glimpses of consciousness without the constructed self, revealing it as less a thing and more a process, a verb rather than a noun? The hard problem resists tidy answers, but that's its gift. It forces us to confront the limits of our current paradigms, to consider that reality might be far stranger than our categories of mind and matter can capture. Whether consciousness is fundamental, emergent, or something beyond our current vocabulary, one thing is clear: the very fact that we can ponder these questions, that the universe has awakened enough to gaze back at itself, is perhaps the greatest mystery of all. What if you could step sideways into another version of your life, one where you made different choices, where historical events unfolded differently, or even where the laws of physics themselves weren't quite the same? This isn't just the premise of sci-fi. Across TikTok, Reddit, and Discord, thousands of people claim they're doing exactly that through a practice called reality shifting. They describe using focused meditation, visualization, and intention to shift their awareness into alternate timelines, as if tuning a radio to a different frequency. Some report waking up in worlds where they're celebrities, where loved ones never passed away, or where magic is as real as gravity. Skeptics dismiss it as lucid dreaming or wishful thinking, but those who have experienced it insist the sensations are too vivid, too consistent to be mere fantasy. So where does this idea come from, and could there be any scientific or spiritual precedent for such a radical claim? The methods used by modern reality shifters often draw from ancient traditions. Tibetan dream yogas have long taught practitioners to recognize and navigate alternate states of consciousness as if they were physical landscapes. Aboriginal shamans speak of walking between worlds during rituals, accessing realms where time flows backward or animals speak. Even the Hindu concept of Leela, the idea that the universe is a divine play of infinite possibilities, resonates with the notion that reality might be more fluid than it appears. What's striking is how closely these practices mirror the steps shared in online shifting guides, entering a deeply relaxed state, setting clear intentions, and using symbolic portals like mirrors or doorways to cross into another existence. The tools may have modern branding, but the blueprint feels timeless. Quantum physics, surprisingly, offers a tantalizing parallel. The many worlds interpretation suggests every decision spawns new universes, each containing a different outcome. In this view, reality isn't a single thread but a sprawling tapestry of parallel timelines. While mainstream science stops short of claiming we can hop between them, some theorists propose that consciousness might play a role in selecting which branch we experience. Physicist Hugh Everett Roman III, who pioneered the many worlds theory, speculated that observers could become aware of alternate versions of themselves under rare conditions. Could reality shifting be an intuitive, if unproven, way of tapping into this latent possibility? Then there's the neurological angle. During deep meditation or hypnagogic states, the twilight zone between wakefulness and sleep, the brain's sense of time and space can become remarkably malleable. Functional MRI scans show that these states dampen activity in the parietal lobe, the region responsible for orienting us in physical reality. With this filter weakened, the mind might construct immersive alternate environments that feel as real as waking life. Lucid dreamers report similar experiences, though shifters argue their memories of alternate realities persist with uncanny clarity upon returning, unlike the fading fragments of dreams. Critics raise valid concerns without verifiable evidence, like predicting events in these alternate timelines or bringing back physical artifacts. Reality shifting remains firmly in the realm of subjective experience. Psychologists warn that escapism into imagined worlds could exacerbate dissociation in vulnerable individuals. Yet proponents counter that even if shifting is just an advanced mental exercise, the benefits enhanced creativity, emotional healing, or simply the thrill of exploration are real enough. Perhaps the most compelling question isn't whether these alternate realities exist out there, but what the phenomenon reveals about consciousness itself. If the mind can construct entire worlds so convincing that they blur the line between perception and projection, how much of our everyday reality is similarly constructed? Whether shifting is a metaphysical truth or a psychological marvel, it challenges us to reconsider the boundaries of the possible and to ask what other layers of existence might be waiting just beyond the edges of our ordinary awareness. Psychedelics have been called the keys to the doors of perception for good reason. They don't just alter what we see, they reshape how we see. Take DMT, the so-called spirit molecule. Ingested or inhaled, it catapults users into realms where geometric patterns unfold into vast interdimensional landscapes, where entities made of light communicate in wordless languages, and where the very notion of being a separate self dissolves like sugar in water. These aren't just hallucinations in the dismissive sense. They're experiences so vividly real that many who return describe them as more authentic than waking life, as if they've glimpsed a hidden layer of existence usually veiled by the brain's filters. What makes these encounters so staggering is their uncanny consistency across cultures and individuals. A Wall Street banker and an Amazonian shaman, with no shared cultural reference points, might both describe encountering the same serpentine beings or fractal palaces during DMT journeys. Psilocybin, the compound in magic mushrooms, similarly unravels the ego's grip, often leading to a sense of merging with nature or the universe, a feeling mystics spend decades meditating to achieve. Researchers at Johns Hopkins have documented these effects clinically, with volunteers reporting mystical experiences indistinguishable from those described in ancient spiritual texts. Under controlled conditions, participants speak of timelessness, infinite love, and a reality more real than their ordinary one. This raises a provocative question. If these substances reliably produce states that align with both quantum weirdness and perennial philosophy, could they be revealing something fundamental about consciousness itself? Quantum physics suggests particles exist in probabilities until observed, while psychedelics dissolve the observer into the observed. The Hindu concept of Brahman, the idea that all separation is illusion, mirrors the psychedelic experience of ego death, where the boundary between self and world evaporates. Even the brain's default mode network, which quiets dramatically during trips, is the same circuitry that constructs our sense of being a discrete, continuous I. Coincidence or clue? Critics argue these parallels are just the brain under chemical stress, firing randomly to create fantastical narratives. Yet fMRI studies show psychedelics don't increase neural activity so much as reorganize it, forging hyper-connected pathways between regions that normally don't communicate. This might explain why users describe accessing higher dimensions or alternate realities. Their brains are temporarily processing information in radically novel ways, like a radio suddenly picking up stations from other frequencies. Some theorists, like neuroscientist Christoph Koch, speculate that psychedelics could be temporarily lifting the veil of ordinary perception, allowing us to perceive dimensions or energies usually filtered out for survival. The implications ripple far beyond pharmacology. If psychedelics can reliably induce states that echo both mystical revelation and cutting-edge physics, perhaps the real world isn't as objective as we assume. Indigenous cultures have long treated these substances as sacraments, tools to commune with the divine. Modern science is now cautiously agreeing, with psilocybin therapy showing remarkable promise in treating depression by shattering rigid patterns of thought, literally resetting how patients perceive reality. So are these compounds showing us a deeper truth, or just the brain's dazzling capacity for self-deception? The answer might lie somewhere in between. Psychedelics don't necessarily reveal what's out there, but they expose how much of our reality is constructed in here. Whether the visions are metaphysical revelations or neurological symphonies, one thing's certain: they prove consciousness is far stranger and far more malleable than our everyday experience suggests. And that realization alone, that the walls of reality are thinner than we thought, might be the most transformative insight of all. The universe is unimaginably vast, billions of galaxies, each with billions of stars, countless planets orbiting in the so-called Goldilocks zone where life could thrive. Given these mind-boggling numbers, the math seems undeniable. Statistically, we shouldn't be alone. And yet, when we point our telescopes at the cosmos or listen for radio signals from distant civilizations, we're met with silence. This glaring contradiction is the Fermi paradox, named after physicist Enrico Fermi, who famously asked, "Where is everybody? If intelligent life is out there, why does the universe feel so empty?" One chilling possibility is the zoo hypothesis, the idea that advanced civilizations are aware of us but deliberately avoid contact, treating Earth like a protected wildlife preserve. Think of it like anthropologists observing an uncontacted tribe, maintaining a strict policy of non-interference to preserve our natural development. This isn't just speculative fiction. The prime directive from Star Trek was inspired by similar ethical considerations. But if this hypothesis holds, it raises an even stranger question. What if their invisibility isn't just about discretion, but about the very nature of reality? Consider how effortlessly we manipulate virtual worlds in video games. An NPC, a non-player character, might live its entire existence unaware that its environment is coded by unseen creators. Now flip the script. What if we're the NPCs? Advanced civilizations might not need physical spacecraft to monitor us. They could be observing from dimensions or simulations we can't perceive. This aligns with the simulation argument, which suggests our reality might be an artificial construct. If that's true, the silence of the cosmos isn't a lack of neighbors. It's a firewall, a deliberate separation between levels of existence. Then there's the transcendence hypothesis. Maybe intelligent life doesn't spread across galaxies because it evolves beyond the need for physical form. Civilizations a million years ahead of us might have digitized their consciousness, merging into a unified superintelligence or ascending to higher dimensions. In this scenario, the universe's emptiness isn't a paradox but a graveyard or a chrysalis. The relics of biological life could be as irrelevant to them as ant hills are to us. They're not hiding, they've simply moved on to a state we can't yet fathom. But let's not overlook darker answers. The Great Filter theory suggests that somewhere along the path from simple life to interstellar civilization, there's an almost insurmountable barrier, a self-destructive tendency like nuclear war, environmental collapse, or runaway AI. If this filter lies ahead of us, it spells doom for humanity's cosmic ambitions. If it's behind us, we might truly be alone, the rare survivors of a near-impossible evolutionary lottery. Either way, the silence of the stars becomes a haunting echo of our own fragility. Could the answer lie in perception itself? Quantum physics hints that reality might be observer-dependent, a participatory universe where consciousness shapes existence. If advanced civilizations mastered this principle, they might not need to traverse physical space to explore. They could manipulate reality from within, rendering traditional interstellar travel obsolete. Our failure to detect them wouldn't mean they aren't there, just that they operate on a level our instruments and our minds aren't yet equipped to grasp. So where does this leave us? The Fermi paradox might not be a puzzle to solve but a mirror to confront. It forces us to question not just the cosmos, but the nature of our own existence. Are we alone? Are we being watched? Or are we, like children calling into a canyon, waiting for an echo that was never meant to come? The answer, if there is one, might redefine not just our place in the universe, but what the universe itself truly is. Imagine plucking a guitar string and hearing not just one note, but every possible note in harmony, a single vibration containing the entire spectrum of sound. Now shrink that string down to a billionth of the size of an atom, and you've got the basic idea behind string theory. This radical framework suggests that the fundamental building blocks of reality aren't point-like particles but unimaginably tiny, vibrating strings. And just like different guitar strings produce different notes, the unique vibrations of these cosmic strings could give rise to every force and particle in the universe, from the lightest neutrino to the mightiest gravitational wave. But here's where it gets truly mind-bending. For the math of string theory to work, these strings can't just wiggle through the three spatial dimensions we know: length, width, and height. They require up to 11 dimensions to vibrate properly. So where are these extra dimensions hiding? One possibility is that they're curled up or compactified into spaces so tiny we'll never perceive them directly. Picture a garden hose from far away. It looks like a simple line, one dimension, but up close, you see it's actually a cylinder, 2 dimensions. Similarly, our familiar 3D world might be like the hose's surface, while the extra dimensions are coiled into microscopic loops at every point in space. This isn't just theoretical gymnastics. Hidden dimensions could solve two of physics' biggest puzzles. First, gravity is shockingly weak compared to other forces. A fridge magnet can overpower Earth's entire gravitational pull. String theory suggests gravity might be diluted, leaking into these extra dimensions like water seeping through layers of fabric. Second, quantum mechanics and gravity stubbornly refuse to play nice in our current models. But in higher dimensions, their equations might finally harmonize, revealing a unified theory of everything. Some interpretations go even further. The brain world scenario proposes our entire universe is a 3D membrane, or brain, floating in a higher dimensional space, like a slice of bread in a cosmic loaf. Other brains could hover just millimeters away in these extra dimensions, invisible to us because light and matter are stuck to our brain. This might sound like fantasy, but it could explain dark matter. What if it's just ordinary matter on a neighboring brain, tugging on us gravitationally through the dimensional veil? Critics argue string theory's lack of experimental proof makes it untestable philosophy. Yet recent advances hint at ways to probe these ideas. The Large Hadron Collider might detect microscopic black holes that evaporate instantly, a sign of extra dimensions. Or gravitational wave observatories could catch ripples from colliding brains. Even tabletop experiments searching for deviations in Newton's gravity at tiny scales might stumble upon hidden dimensions. Whether string theory ultimately holds up or not, it's reshaped how we see reality's fabric. It suggests our 3D world might be a shadow cast by deeper, richer layers of existence, like flatlanders unaware of the mountains above them. And if that's true, the universe isn't just stranger than we imagine. It's stranger than we can imagine, vibrating with dimensions beyond our senses, waiting to be heard. What if the universe doesn't exist for life, but because of it? This is the radical proposition at the heart of biocentrism, a theory that turns conventional physics on its head. Instead of treating consciousness as a happy accident in a pre-existing cosmos, biocentrism posits that life and the act of perceiving it is the very engine of reality. Think of it like a cosmic version of the old philosophical question: if a tree falls in a forest with no one to hear it, does it make a sound? Biocentrism takes this further, asking, without an observer, does the forest or even the tree exist at all? The idea traces back to quantum mechanics' observer effect, where particles seem to choose their state only when measured. But biocentrism stretches this principle to the macro scale. Consider the famous double slit experiment. When unobserved, particles behave like waves. When watched, they snap into defined positions. Now imagine that same principle applied to the entire universe. The moon, distant galaxies, even the chair you're sitting on, could they all exist in a haze of potential until a conscious observer pins them down? Proponents like Dr. Robert Lanza argue that space and time aren't external containers but tools of perception, woven by biology itself. After all, we never experience time directly, only memories of the past and anticipations of the future. Without a brain to process these, does time have any meaning? Critics dismiss this as solipsism dressed in scientific jargon. They point out that fossil records and cosmic background radiation suggest a universe predating life by billions of years. But biocentrism counters with a multiverse twist. Perhaps reality branches endlessly, and consciousness navigates these forks like a river finding its path. In this view, the universe isn't a static stage but a dynamic interplay between observer and observed, where life and cosmos co-create each other. It's a vision that echoes indigenous cosmologies, where land and dreamer shape one another, and Buddhist teachings that describe reality as interdependent origination, a web with no fixed center. The implications are staggering. If biocentrism holds, the search for extraterrestrial life takes on new urgency, not just to find companions in the void, but because alien consciousness might literally expand the boundaries of reality. It also reframes death. Lanza suggests that when one observer dies, the universe doesn't vanish but continues in other branches where their consciousness persists. This isn't mysticism, it's a testable hypothesis. Some interpretations of quantum biology propose that microtubules in brain cells might harness quantum effects, blurring the line between mind and quantum field. Whether biocentrism ultimately proves true or not, it forces a profound shift in perspective. For centuries, science placed humans on a tiny rock orbiting an unremarkable star. Biocentrism puts us back at the center, not as privileged spectators, but as active participants in a universe that comes alive through the act of witnessing. The cosmos may not be a machine ticking along indifferent to life, but a grand collaboration between matter and meaning, where every glance, every thought, every heartbeat helps shape the stars. For centuries, physicists have chased a dream that borders on the divine, a single, elegant equation capable of explaining every force, particle, and phenomenon in the universe. This holy grail, often called the theory of everything, would unite the cosmic and the quantum, bridging Einstein's relativity with the strange rules of quantum mechanics. Imagine an equation so profound it could describe the birth of a galaxy and the spin of an electron with equal grace. Yet for all its promise, this quest raises a haunting question. Are we uncovering reality's blueprint or chasing a mirage woven from the very fabric of human curiosity? One leading contender in this grand pursuit is M-theory. a bold extension of string theory that suggests our universe isn't built from particles at all, but from vibrating, multidimensional strings. These strings aren't just tiny, they're thought to exist in an 11-dimensional space, with 7 dimensions curled up so tightly we'll never perceive them directly. M-theory goes further, proposing that our entire cosmos might be one of countless membranes, or brains, floating in a higher dimensional void. Collisions between these brains could even explain cataclysms like the Big Bang. Picture 2 sheets of paper fluttering in the wind when they touch. The energy released might birth an entire universe. It's a breathtaking vision, but here's the catch. M-theory remains largely mathematical, with no experimental proof yet to anchor it in physical reality. Then there's loop quantum gravity, a rival approach that sidesteps strings entirely. Instead of vibrating filaments, this framework imagines space itself as a network of interconnected loops, a kind of cosmic chainmail where each link represents the tiniest possible unit of space-time. In this view, black holes aren't bottomless pits but portals where space-time reconnects in new configurations, like a tangled necklace pulled tight. Unlike string theory's extra dimensions, loop quantum gravity keeps things grounded in the familiar 4, offering a starkly different path to unification. Yet it, too, faces hurdles. The theory struggles to explain how smooth, continuous space-time emerges from its discrete building blocks, leaving gaps in our understanding of gravity's dance with quantum particles. But beyond the technical challenges lies a deeper philosophical tension. Some argue the quest for a theory of everything might be fundamentally flawed, not because the universe is too complex, but because the very idea assumes reality operates by human-friendly rules. Our brains evolved to navigate a middle world of medium-sized objects moving at modest speeds. What if the true nature of existence is simply beyond our cognitive grasp, like an ant trying to comprehend the internet? Nobel laureate Steven Weinberg, a champion of unification, once admitted that even if we found the final equation, we might never fully understand why it's the right one. The universe doesn't owe us intelligibility. This humbling possibility doesn't deter the explorers. Some physicists propose that the ultimate theory might not be an equation at all, but a network of interconnected principles, a cosmic puzzle where every piece reshapes the others. Others suggest that consciousness itself might play a role in the puzzle, echoing ancient Eastern philosophies where observer and observed are inseparable. Whether the God equation is waiting to be discovered or forever out of reach, the search itself has already reshaped our cosmic perspective. Each failed hypothesis, each near miss, peels back another layer of the grand illusion, revealing not just how the universe works, but how much we have left to learn. And in that endless curiosity, perhaps, lies the real theory of everything. Close your eyes for a moment and try this simple experiment. Stop thinking. Not just slow down your thoughts, fully halt the inner monologue, even for a few seconds. If you're like most people, you'll quickly hit a wall. The mind resists silence like water resisting stillness, constantly rippling with plans, memories, and fragments of song. Yet beneath this endless chatter lies a profound possibility that meditation isn't just about relaxation, but about temporarily shutting off the brain's reality construction software to experience existence raw and unfiltered. Take the practice of mindfulness where you observe thoughts and sensations without judgment. At first, it feels like watching clouds pass. You notice anger, a knee ache, a grocery list. But with sustained focus, something shifts. The observer, the part of you that's aware, starts to feel less like a person and more like pure awareness itself. Tibetan Buddhists call this Rigpa, a state where the boundary between perceiver and perceived dissolves. Neuroscientists observe parallel changes in the brain. decreased activity in the default mode network, the circuitry responsible for our sense of a separate, storytelling self. In this space, the world doesn't feel like something out there being observed by a separate you in here. Reality becomes more like a unified field where subject and object are two sides of the same coin. This isn't just abstract philosophy. Studies on advanced meditators reveal startling physical effects. When monks trained in compassion meditation focus on altruistic love, their brainwaves synchronize in gamma oscillations, the highest frequency electrical activity the brain produces at amplitudes never seen before in neuroscience. Even more striking are the accounts of those who have touched deeper states like samadhi or jhana, where time, space, and selfhood seem to evaporate. One practitioner described it as waking up from the dream of being a person, while another likened it to being the ocean instead of a wave. These aren't poetic metaphors but consistent reports across cultures, echoing the non-dual teachings of Advaita Vedanta, Zen, and Christian mysticism. But how does this relate to reality's true nature? Consider the hard problem of consciousness, why subjective experience exists at all. In ordinary states, we assume consciousness emerges from the brain. Yet in deep meditation, many report the inverse realization, that the brain might be more like a radio receiver, tuning into a fundamental awareness that precedes thought. Quantum physics adds intrigue here, with theories like von Neumann-Wigner interpretation suggesting consciousness could play a role in collapsing quantum probabilities into definite outcomes. If meditation reveals awareness as primary rather than derivative, it could mean the illusion isn't the unified field mystics describe, but our everyday belief in separation and solidity. Skeptics counter that these experiences are just the brain under unusual conditions, a temporary glitch in neural processing, yet the transformative effects persist long after meditation ends. Those who have touched non-dual states often describe irreversible shifts, a drop in existential anxiety, a heightened sense of connection, and a quiet certainty that reality is far more fluid than it appears. Some modern teachers, like Adyashanti or Eckhart Tolle, frame enlightenment not as a supernatural revelation, but as the simple, shocking recognition that there was never a separate self to begin with, just an open space where life happens. So is enlightenment the ultimate key to reality's secrets? Perhaps not in the way we imagine. It's less about gaining secret knowledge and more about losing the filters that distort perception. Like wiping fog from a mirror, meditation doesn't create clarity. It removes what obscures it. The paradox is that this ultimate truth can't be captured in concepts. As the Zen saying goes, the finger pointing at the moon is not the moon itself. Yet for those who glimpse beyond the veil, even briefly, the world never looks quite the same again, not because it's changed, but because the seer has. If reality is more like a flowing river than a frozen lake, how do we build a life on such shifting ground? The idea that the world might be far less solid than it appears can feel unsettling at first, like learning the floor beneath you is made of mist. But what if this uncertainty isn't a flaw to fear, but a feature to embrace? Ancient wisdom and modern science agree. Leaning into the unknown might be the key to living with more wonder, less worry, and boundless creativity. Start with quantum physics' most liberating lesson: probability over certainty. At the subatomic level, particles exist in a cloud of possibilities until observed. Translating this to daily life, it means releasing the exhausting grip on rigid outcomes. The colleague who suddenly changes their mind, the job opportunity that evaporates overnight. These aren't betrayals of a predictable world, but reminders of its inherent fluidity. Studies in psychology show that people who tolerate ambiguity actually report lower stress levels. They approach challenges like surfers riding waves, adjusting balance moment by moment rather than fighting the ocean's unpredictability. Mindfulness meditation offers a practical toolkit for this mindset. When you sit quietly and observe thoughts without attachment, you notice something profound. Even your sense of self flickers like a candle flame. Emotions rise and fall, plans rewrite themselves, yet awareness remains. This practice doesn't dissolve reality, it sharpens your ability to navigate its currents. Research from Harvard reveals that just 8 weeks of mindfulness training reduces activity in the amygdala, the brain's fear center, while strengthening the prefrontal cortex, responsible for adaptive decision-making. In other words, it helps you respond to life's uncertainties with curiosity instead of panic. Creativity thrives in this space. Jazz musicians understand this intimately. Improvising isn't about avoiding wrong notes, but weaving them into the melody. When physicist Richard Feynman hit roadblocks in his research, he'd switch to playing bongos, trusting that loosening his grip on logic would let new ideas emerge. Modern neuroscience confirms this. Divergent thinking, the kind that generates innovative solutions, peaks when we're in a state of relaxed openness, not rigid focus. The next time you're stuck, try stepping outside literal thinking. Doodle, take a walk, or ponder absurd, what-if scenarios. The brain often cracks problems sideways when the front door is locked. But how do we reconcile this fluidity with the very real need for stability? The answer lies in distinguishing control from grounding. You can't control external events, but you can anchor yourself in practices that foster resilience. Rituals, whether morning journaling, cooking a favorite meal, or stargazing, create rhythms in chaos. Indigenous cultures have long used ceremony to mark transitions, not to resist change but to honor its inevitability. Even in quantum terms, think of these rituals as observations that momentarily crystallize meaning from life's probabilities, the most radical takeaway. Uncertainty dissolves isolation. If reality is participatory, then every interaction ripples through the whole. A kind word to a stranger, a moment of patience in traffic. These aren't small acts but threads in a larger tapestry. Quantum entanglement shows particles influencing each other instantaneously across distance. Human lives might be just as interconnected. Living well in an uncertain world isn't about finding answers. It's about learning to dance with the questions, trusting that not knowing is where the magic begins. After all, if the universe is still improvising, why shouldn't we? As we stand at the crossroads of quantum riddles and timeless wisdom, one truth emerges with startling clarity. The universe is not just stranger than we suppose, but stranger than we can suppose. From particles that change behavior when observed, to ancient sages who saw reality as a divine play, to the eerie possibility we're living in an advanced simulation, every layer we peel back reveals deeper mysteries. Yet here's the beautiful paradox: the more we uncover, the more we realize how much we don't know. And that's not a failure of science or philosophy, it's the very heartbeat of discovery. Think of reality like an endless onion. Each time we think we've reached the core, we find another hidden beneath. The quantum realm suggests matter is mostly empty space, a dance of probabilities. Neuroscience reveals our brains construct the solid world we perceive. Eastern traditions whisper that separation itself is the grand illusion. Even our most advanced theories, string theory, holography, the multiverse, point to a cosmos far wilder than our senses can grasp. But rather than leaving us adrift, this uncertainty is an invitation. It's permission to marvel at the ordinary, the way sunlight filters through leaves, the taste of cold water on a hot day, the inexplicable warmth of human connection. If reality is malleable, then wonder isn't just an emotion, it's a way of seeing. So what do we do with this knowledge? We don't have to abandon logic or dismiss science. Instead, we can hold our beliefs lightly, staying open to revision. The greatest minds in history, from Einstein to the Buddha, shared one trait: radical curiosity. They questioned assumptions, embraced paradox, and found awe in the unknown. You don't need a lab or a meditation cushion to join them. Start small. Next time you catch your reflection, ask, who's the observer behind the eyes? When you feel time slipping by, ponder whether it's a river or a mosaic of nows. These aren't just thought experiments, they're doorways. The most profound shift isn't in what we believe, but how we engage with the world. If existence is participatory, then your attention isn't passive, it's creative. Every question you ask, every moment you savor, adds a stitch to the tapestry. Maybe that's the real secret hidden in all these theories. Reality isn't something we find, but something we co-create. So keep questioning, keep exploring. And above all, keep wondering. The universe hasn't revealed its final act, and the best seats are still yours. Drop your wildest thoughts in the comments below. And if you've enjoyed this journey through the cosmos' greatest mysteries, hit subscribe. The next adventure is just